agora. Então, essa gravação poderá ser acessada do nosso canal de YouTube, que nós vamos compartilhar com vocês o endereço no e-mail de seguimento a esse webinar. Así que todos podrán acceder al webinar en nuestro YouTube con la posibilidad de añadir subtítulos si queda después más cómodo. Pero esperamos que todos puedan entender ahí a Sandra. So welcome to our Dr. Sandra Merton, our Senior Project Manager from Geofacets, who prepared this fabulous presentation in localization about two important regions for us and how Geofacets, our platform of geoscience, is helping with all the technical scientific information in mining and oil and gas. So Sandra, is all yours.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so today I'm first going to give a quick intro to what we're going to look at today, and then we'll really go into the examples, the Vaca Muerta and the Ancash in Peru. So let me just briefly start, and I'm going to stop the video during the presentation just to make sure there is no issue. So while I'm presenting, so yeah, to show you first, field trips are really important in geosciences, and so I have a geoscience background myself. So I actually here you can see a picture of me on my first field trip ever when I studied geology quite some time ago. And of course, yeah, field trips, like really on-site exploration is really important to experience geology in the field. I can still remember that, yeah, I couldn't really believe that, you know, rocks or layers could be folded, could be even overturned until I saw these, you know, these things for real. So already for that, to really experience geology by seeing it in action in a way is really important. Then, in addition to that, of course, yeah, field trips to develop field skills, you really learn how to observe, to understand what you see. And again, one of the examples, so on the left, this small image, you see one of my first ever field sketches. It's in Dutch, but it was pretty basic. I managed to sort of see just a few details or a few high level things of the outcrop. And then on the right, you see a section, a sketch that I made of a section much later in my geology studies, where I, you know, was able to really observe a lot more. So yeah, also to really start and see and observe what is happening. And then, of course, also to collect samples, to collect data, to really yeah, like collect information, and then to analyze that information and synthesize, and then in general to develop geological knowledge, whether this is for a research project, whether this is for exploration in either in oil and gas or in mineral exploration. In the end, yeah, you need to gather like a lot of information, samples, data, to understand your area of interest. And in that respect, of course, also more in a professional career, when you're maybe in oil and gas or in mining, it can also really help. Outcrops can really help to also understand how to interpret things in the subsurface. So here we're more thinking about the analog type of example, where, you know, being able to see things in outcrops can help you to understand better what you might be looking at in a seismic line or in wells or in other type of geophysical or geological subsurface data. So yeah, I think, you know, probably everyone agrees that, yeah, field trips are really important. Yeah, nothing can really replace like a real field trip, but yeah, sometimes it's just not possible to go on site. So it could be that it's difficult to get to an area, a very remote, high risk areas, or budget and resource constraint, or yeah, the situation, yeah, that a large part of the world is in at the moment, a pandemic. And so either field trips can really, virtual field trips can really help you to at least prepare in the most optimal way for your actual field trip by just, seeing what is already there, doing a lot of preparations up front so that you can really make the most, or when it's not possible to then make the best out of it and really make it the next best thing. And so that's what we will be talking about today. So we will basically use Geofacets and Google Earth to do a virtual field trip in the Vaca Muerta and the Ancash. So those are the two examples we will cover today. But of course, keep in mind, you could go to other areas, to other regions of interest in the same way as what I'm showing you today. So before I start, just briefly showing you what is Geofacet so that you have some background info before I'm going into the actual field trips. So Geofacets answers geoscience questions by combining three things: essential knowledge, geoscience information and data in one place, then easy discovery, where especially spatially smart search targeting is a key thing. And so with that, we mean being able to search by location, which is what in geosciences is what you're probably looking for the most. You're usually looking for things in a certain area of interest in a certain location. And then the third item, a seamless integration, being able to actually take information like maps, table data, and then really make it actionable, for example, in ArcGIS or Google Earth, the example that we'll use today, or Excel in the case of tables, so that you can do analysis and interpretation. So to dive a bit deeper into those three things that I mentioned. So with essential knowledge, here you see an overview of those multiple sources in one place. So Geofacets does not only contain Elsevier content, it also contains content from a lot of other publishers and societies such as Wiley, AGU, the Society of Exploration Geophysicists, AAPG, Society of Economic Geologists, and you can see the whole list on the left. And so basically what we do is we include relevant geoscience journals and articles from those publishers and societies, and then we go into those articles and we really extract and enrich the information, and that's what you see on the right of this slide. And so what that means is that we identify all the maps, the plots, the graphs, the tables, the photos, the different types of information. We assign spatial data so that we know like where are the maps, where are the photos. And with that, Geofacets today contains more than 2.2 million maps, figures, and tables. To dive a bit deeper, so the easy discovery, I mentioned the spatial search. So this is enabled because of this metadata enrichment, because we assign regions, countries, basins, also coordinates to the maps, the figures, and the tables. And with the addition that the maps, where possible, are also actually geo-referenced so that they can really be integrated into GIS software. And this is happening for about 70% of the maps, because you can imagine that not all the maps can be geo-referenced. For example, if it's really old maps that don't have enough spatial identifiers, or think of paleogeographic reconstructions where the tectonic plates are not in the present day location, then those cannot be geo-referenced. But 70% is geo-referenced, and you will see more about this when we start to look at the example with Geofacets and Google Earth. In addition, as I mentioned, also other information is added, of course, like what type of figure is it, who is the author, what is the article, who is the publisher, like all this information is captured. And then once information is found that can be used, that is relevant to your project or your field trip or your area of interest, this information can be downloaded from Geofacets and integrated. For example, maps can be integrated into ArcGIS. They are available for download as a GeoTIFF, or KMZ for integration into Google Earth. Tables can be downloaded as Excel, and then of course all the images can also be downloaded as an image file so that you can integrate into a report or your project. So with that, just briefly an overview of how Geofacets could help. So this is some examples, and I think part of this was also covered in the introduction. But to give you an idea, so in oil and gas, for example, Geofacets is used when exploring an area or basin, for example, for a lease sale or for other types of assessments where Geofacets can really help to find like what seismic information is available, what well information is available, or even, yeah, the overall tectonic structure, sedimentology, to really then combine that. And this is what you see in the example where a colleague of mine actually made a 3D image using seismic lines and maps from Geofacets to create a 3D view of an area in the south part of the Gulf of Mexico. Another example in mineral exploration, find data to analyze the characteristics of a deposit. For example, what are the geochemical, geophysical, and geological properties? So that could be another example of how geofacets can be used. Find information for a specific feature or topic, or to answer research questions or find analogs. So here, of course, you can think anything. It could be a certain basin type, or think of turbidites, or like more detailed things such as certain analogs, like fluvial analogs, or other types of information. And then the last one, and this is the one that we will look into today, to find maps, outcrop photos, and other information to either prepare for a field trip or to do a virtual geology field trip if, yeah, you cannot go into the field. And yeah, this last example is what we will dive into now. So yeah, I mean, of course, as I said, right, nothing like a real field trip to really experience geology in the field. But on the other hand, one of the advantages of a virtual field trip is that you can go anywhere you like. And so here I just showed you an overview of, what would be possible. So like you could go to the Colorado Front Range in the Rocky Mountains in the US, on the left, top left. Then in the middle top, you could go to the Sorbas Basin in Spain, to the far east of Russia to look at the Tolbacic volcano, or the two examples that we will look at today, to go to the Ancash in Peru, or the Vaca Muerta in Argentina. And so with that, I would like to go to the first example, where we will use Geofacets and Google Earth to see if we can find information, especially, maps, satellite images, and also, of course, outcrop photos and other types of information to better understand the facies characteristics and sequence architecture of the Vaca Muerta for unconventional exploration. And so with that, I will now go to Geofacets. So we will first start in Geofacets, and as you can see, a big portion of Geofacets is made up of an interactive map. Then here on the left, there is options to search. So you could either search for a keyword, or we can directly do a spatial search, either a rectangle or a polygon, to dive into an area of interest. And then here, of course, also the ability to control the base map to, for example, choose your preference. So what I will start with is really with an exact phrase search using the quotes to make sure that we search really for the Vaca Muerta. And so I'm going to search Geofacets. So this will search not only for example, the title and the abstract of the articles, but really in particular, it will search the metadata that we have added to all the maps, the figures and tables, and then the, let me zoom out the map a bit. And then of course, also the captions. And that's like really important because so the captions of those maps, figures and tables will really first bring this visual information. And so you can already see the preview of all these images. We can directly see some nice outcrop photos already. And then with the spatial view on the map. And so that's what you see here. So like the filters on the left, allowing to drill down in the results, a preview of all the results, and then those blue bubbles are basically the results clustered together. And you can see, you might wonder, like, why are some of these outside? Most of them are here, but there are some bubbles outside. And that is simply because in those articles or in those maps or figures or tables, there is also a reference to the Vaca Muerta. So I can just, open one example to show you. So in this case, right, there is this image and there is a reference to the Vaca Muerta. Then in the same way, let us now zoom in really to our area of interest. And so for that, I will actually also combine with a spatial search. And for that, I'm going to use this overlay. So there is options to overlay basins onto Geofacets, and I really want to get the right basin. So I'm going to zoom in so that we combine the textual search with a spatial search, which really eliminates any sort of dependency on the author having mentioned, the basin that we're looking for. And so here is the basin that we are interested in at the moment. Here you can see the outline. And so, yeah, as I said, so the spatial search is really coordinate based. So whether the author has described the name of this basin or not, still Geofacets will be able to search because it's basically normalized because of the coordinates. So I'm going to draw a rectangle just so that it's quick. Of course, you could also do a more precise polygon if you like, but for this purpose, I'm just going to draw a polygon around the basin, and then we'll go to the results just for our area of interest. So you can see we now have 872 results coming from 91 source documents. So it's more than 800 maps, figures, tables coming from 90 source documents. Because we're going on a field trip, I specifically want outcrop information. So I'm going to add a keyword filter for outcrop, and then we'll go to 160 results. So this is far more manageable. I can zoom in a bit now so that you can see where the different results are located. And so you could choose, right? You could either start and explore just based on relevance, or you could explore spatially. In today's example, I will explore just by relevance so that you get an idea. So let's open the first result. And so here we can see in detail now what this photo, it looks like, let me check. So it's like an oblique view of a high resolution satellite imagery draped on a digital elevation model, and then below with an interpretation. So yeah, very quickly you can visually see the location of the results here in this inset map on the left, the article, then the actual image with the figure caption that allows you to quickly assess, like, is this relevant for me or not? And then the other information in the article. And so like that, we can start to explore the results. Let's say, so this looks pretty interesting, right? Like, let's also take a look what this article is about so we can see. Yeah, so obviously, right, this system has received a lot of attention due to its potential as a major unconventional play. Then it mentions that this study combines field geology with satellite imagery to document the sequence architecture over in a specific system. And then also like that, you can really start to understand what are the findings before we dive deeper. We can then explore other information from this article. So that's what you see here on the left. Here you can see, let me scroll down a little bit so that you can see it well. So we can see there is maps, there is tables, and what we can now start to do is, for example, take a look at this map to see if it also gives us some indication of the overall context of this study. We can see, this is nice, the study area. So we can see the study area here, a rough basin outline, and then also what we can see here is the location or the area of the main producing fields. We can then download this map. You can choose, like there is a GeoTIFF for any GIS software that works with GeoTIFFs like Arcgis, or we can choose a KMC file for integration into Google Earth. And that's what we'll use today for the virtual field trip. So I simply click KMZ and then click download. And this will then allow me, so let me open this. And as you can see, I now opened it in Google Earth and will zoom in on this area, and you can see the georeference map being overlaid nicely onto Google Earth. We could play a bit, let me go down, we could play a bit with the transparency so that you can see the georeferencing. And then like that, you can start to analyze. And so what I did is I took a few more maps, other information from exactly this search that I showed you in Geofacets. And then I started to look at then the context in Google Earth. And so with that, so keep in mind, a lot of the information that I'm showing you now, I took already from Geofacets, but for the to make sure you know that we fit within the time of this webinar, I already prepared this up front. So what we can now do, we can take this map and we can start to, for example, digitize certain features, such as the basin outline. So I just switched that on. So you can just use either the point or the polygon or the line to digitize features quickly in Google Earth. So in this case, I used the add polygon and I just clicked quickly, and then you can add some information that you might want to add. So in this case, I added where I got the information from. So I added the author, a quick description of what it is. In the same way, I added the outline of the subsurface fields, and then also the location of the study area. So that's this one. Let me close this one. So here, the location of the study area. And so again, with the information where I got it from, so that I have an easy reference back. Maybe also good to mention, so the map that you're seeing, it is always possible to like also keep the reference. So let me go back to that particular map. There is this pin here, which allows me to view the context of the map. And so, yeah, as I mentioned, right, a lot of the features that I created is based on the map. And so I kept that information also for the individual points. And I took it basically from this pin that I can use to see where did I get the map from. So I can see it came from Geofacets. Who is the author? What is the figure caption? Like all the information that you need so that you can always easily refer back to it. Then to go back up. So like that, I went ahead and I found additional maps. So let me zoom in a little bit. So basically we have this one map. I will just close this one because we now have the key features. And then there is this other map that I found, which is far more detailed. So let's zoom in. And we can then take a look. So this is a more detailed map, like basically the topography. And so again, right, you can really start to analyze. We can see, if I switch this off, you can see like the nice features on Google Earth. And then together with the map, by making it transparent again, yeah, we can start to see and analyze the information. And so with that, what we can also do is really go to those different areas. So like, let's go to this first outcrop location and take an oblique view. And so now we very much look at the same view that we were looking at before in the figure that I started with in Geofacets. We could even try and see if there is some, let me zoom in a little bit more. Oops. We could even try and see if there is a street view available. Of course, this is not available everywhere. I just need to zoom out a little bit. Of course, oops. Of course, that is not available everywhere, a detailed street view, unfortunately, because yeah, that makes it even nicer. So let me zoom out. To our area of interest back. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. And then zoom in so that we get the street view option. And then we can see, so there is something close. So let's try, as I said, it's in some places there is really nice walks even, and in some places it's a little bit less is available. So here at least we can get an understanding what the area looks like. We can view in all directions, maybe walk a bit across, move a bit along the road. Unfortunately, in this case, we cannot get that close to the actual outcrop, so we'll have to do in this case with if you remember, with these kind of photos that we found in Geofacets to get that view on the geology of this area. And what is really helpful there, and so I switched back to Geofacets, is we can also view the original figure. So you can take a look without having to download, and then take a look at the interpretation here, take a detailed look at the information. And like that, we can see if in the article there is more. So I can see here like some more nice photos. Here we can see more outcrop photos. As always, you can make it in the large view so that we can really take a look and then look at the outcrops that way. And so like that, you can really start to explore virtually. So like that, let me then disable this map. So I found some more maps. Let's go to this one. So this is a different area. So this is from a different study. It's more to the north, as you can see. So again, I opened the map. I downloaded it from Geofacets. Then I opened it in Google Earth. Then I actually digitized all these points. So let me just switch on all. So you can see, oops, except for this big map. So you can see that in this map, there were like 8 different locations. So I added those. And then in the same way, we can start to look, for example, for this first outcrop in that article, sorry, for this one in the article, there was also, again, a field picture. And in this case, I actually saved that picture, this photo, to my, folder that I have been using for this project. And then I added it to Google Earth so that when I click now this location, I can see that this picture from this article, so I added again the reference just to make sure that I always know where it's coming from. So I can now also look at the sections in the context of the location on Google Earth. The same for the second location, I did the same. So again, I found like a nice photo in Geofacets from this same article, and then I started to add it that way. Same for a third area, and this is just to show you how you can really build out for different areas. So this is a very detailed map. You can see that there are 2 sections which I digitized, and in this case, the article, so this is the third article. Again, I took the reference, I took the information that I would like to add for this area, and then I also found in this article, so here you can see the article, I found that they have the sections illustrated in that same figure. So here for section 3, the first section in this image, which I call 3.1, because that's the nice thing. In Google Earth, you can start to build your own field trip with your own locations, your own numbering in the way that you like. And then here, the same for the second section. And so like that, I hope I showed you that for this area, you can really start to analyze virtually. I will go back to the slides to just then summarize this first example. So yeah, what we did is we started to look at the facies characteristics, the sequence architecture. We found different articles. So this was one of the articles. Then we found this really nice photo from the article with an abstract. And actually in this abstract, the authors also described that and I highlighted that it's probably very small to read, but that they found that so they also created, based on the field data and the satellite imagery, they created synthetic seismograms. So that, you know, it's easier to compare the architecture with subsurface data. And so they created that based on the field study. And what they found is that there is these carbonate-rich intervals that are more brittle. And so with that, that's good for fracking. And so those could be the sweet spots. And they found that these can be easy to detect on the synthetic seismograms. And so that's then also the link back to how, you know, these outcrop studies can then also help with actually understanding more about what might be in the subsurface in other areas. So yeah, that was this article. Then yeah, the other article we found also a nice section. And then the third one, yeah, really more the vertical section. So yeah, with that, the first example, we will now go to the second example. So this is the Ancash in Peru, where we will do a trip across some large mines in this region. And so again, using Geofacets and Google Earth. So what we can basically do, we can do, again, the spatial search in the Ancash region. So in this case, you could, for example, do a polygon search so that it's really detailed. The principle is the same as what I showed you before, with the maps and the images and the figures tables here in this preview. Then the results displayed spatially on the map. And then you can start to refine. So like, let's say in this case, you might want to refine with mine or with minerals. So with that, the search went from over 360 results to 100, which again is far more manageable, which then allows you to explore results on the interactive map. So for example, if we pick this dot here in the bottom right corner, then we can see this is about the Antamina deposit. Again, some nice maps. Then another map that shows actually the location of this deposit, but also the general geology. You could again then go ahead and download as a KMC file. So yeah, I did that, downloaded it in Google Earth, and then integrate. And then you can start to digitize the locations, for example, of the Antamina mine, and then zooming in on Google Earth so that you can really get that spatial view. Looking at photos, which I found on Geofacets, and then you can use those to really, again, dive into what is available for that particular area in the literature in terms of photos, other types of information that can help you to virtually assess in the absence of being able to go there yourself. So it's really leveraging what others have already done and published together with Google Earth, and the ability to view and drape maps on Google Earth to get that view. So here, looking at another dot. So this is a different area with a very nice detailed map that, again, I downloaded, I added it in Google Earth, and here you can see this draping in Google Earth that allows this nice 3D view. In the same way, so this article also contained a nice view on towards the south. So again, like a nice photo view. So first, you have view of the mine, this oblique view, and then this southward view that was available in this same article from which I found the map with a nice interpretation of the key features below. And then in the context of Google Earth. And so again, yeah, in this overview, a virtual field trip across like the mines in this region, different maps overlaid on top of each other on Google Earth with photos, outcrop photos, and other information from Geofacets to create that view. And so, yeah, just one thing I would also like to show you is that, of course, so once you dive in deeper, because now I've been mainly building the visual part, let's say, that we go back to this example that we discussed before for the Vaca Muerta. You probably at one point want to dive a lot deeper into this information. So I went to the maps, the photos with the captions, and then also the abstract. But of course, there is a connection to the original article so that you can really read in detail, how they describe the outcrops, what is the interpretation of the outcrops. You might, in some cases, you might want to aggregate all the information, which in the end could, of course, also lead to reinterpretations of older information. And so to show you how you can do that, so this is the abstract. It's like a quick view, but you can always go into the full article through Geofacets, through this read-only article viewer, or by linking to the publisher. So the read-only viewer is available for all the maps, figures, and tables in Geofacets, and it's a read-only viewer, as I said. So it allows you to view the article, to navigate page by page and read it, but you cannot save or download this article. But yeah, it can give you a really good view. So here you can see, right, of the first example that we looked at before, we can see back all the different information, the maps, the photos in the context of the original article. And then also here the strategy that they use, so the sampling of the outcrop strata, they looked at the petrophysical properties, so it gives you like a lot more detail when you build out the information for your area of interest. So that is one. Then two, as I mentioned, there is also a link to the publisher. And so there it depends on, of course, whether you have access to that content. So in this case, this article is an Elsevier publication. So I will be directed to Science Direct. And so we'll soon see the article. So here we can see the original article. If it's, of course, another, like let's say if it's from AAPG, then this will go to the AAPG website. If it's the Geological Society of London, it will go to the Geological Society of London website. And so in each case, it depends really on your access to that publisher, whether you can see the article or otherwise you can always use this full read-only viewer. So yeah, that is just to show you how you can then really dive deeper. To then summarize, and so yeah, as I said, right, like, so let me go to this slide. So today we looked at two examples, the Vaca Muerta in Argentina, also the Ancash in Peru, really looking at two different areas, two different topics. In summary, you can see the picture that I was able to build by combining Geofacets and Google Earth. Of course, you can do this for other areas as well. So you can basically go into Geofacets, search for any other area of interest by just drawing a box, and then explore like that. And then downloading the maps, downloading the figures, downloading other information, photos, to then build this view, and then together with the Google Earth view, explore your area of interest. And then, sorry, one thing, let me put it back in presentation mode. One thing to mention is that, as I mentioned, of course, you know, a real on-site field trip is really, in the end, in geosciences is I think what is usually really the preferred. Like, nothing really beats, you know, seeing things in real life. But, you know, virtual field trips can really help to prepare for efficient on-site field trips. So really, you know, building what is already available in the published literature before, you know, going into your area of interest, or it can be a good alternative when on-site field trips are just not possible. And so with that, I hope I showed you in today's webinar, I hope I showed you how to tackle the virtual field trips for the two examples that we covered today. And so with that, I think we can see if there are questions.
Thank you, Sandra, so much. Buen día, Sandra. I will speak just in Spanish. We are going to launch a poll in the meantime before the questions, but now I'm going to change to Spanish for some minutes during the poll. Buen día a todos. Les pido disculpas que no pude ingresar desde el inicio. Sé que Cristiani estuvo dándoles algunas, hizo la apertura. Ahí lanzamos una breve encuesta online. Les pido si por favor pueden completarla. Siempre nos ayuda a saber si el contenido alcanzamos los objetivos de ustedes, por un lado, y otra, organizar los próximos webinars. De hecho, este seminario en particular lo armamos en respuesta a algunas demandas de ustedes, después de haber tenido uno de los virtual trips organizados por Sandra, que en ese entonces mostramos un ejemplo de Rusia, un volcán en Rusia. La idea fue adaptar el contenido a ejemplos de la región, y también tratamos de distribuir un poco el interés entre oil and gas y mining y entre regiones. También hemos pensado en cubrir Chile, por supuesto, con temas de mining, pero todo no se puede cubrir. También hay interés sobre la región de Puno. Son todas ideas que vamos a estar cubriendo. Pero desde ya les agradezco a todos por la participación. Me presento ahora para quienes no me conocen. Mi nombre es Mariela López, yo soy la responsable por todo lo que es la División de Ingeniería y Geociencias. También me acompaña Luis Baczynski, somos el equipo local que cubrimos todo lo que son las soluciones de Ingeniería y Geociencias. En relación a preguntas, y algunas, de hecho las preguntas que tuvimos en Q&A, pueden enviarlas también en portugués, caso necesiten tema de idioma, en inglés, perdón, en portugués y en español, nosotros las podemos traducir para Sandra. Pero hubo algunas preguntas generales comunes que me adelanto a responderles. Temas de grabación, va a estar disponible, van a recibir un link en forma automática todas las personas que se registraron. De todas maneras, con Luis estuvimos muy activos invitándolos individualmente, por lo tanto estaremos también activamente compartiendo informaciones con ustedes. Para quienes necesiten un certificado también se va a generar en forma automática. Y un tema más, la grabación va a estar en YouTube. Sé que a veces el tema del idioma puede ser una barrera. En YouTube tienen la posibilidad de poner los subtítulos, ¿tá? Bueno, con eso les agradezco y podemos pasar, Luis, si querés, algunas preguntas de las que tengas identificadas con Sandra, y si no, tengo algunos comentarios también para adicionar de preguntas que vi.
Obrigado, Mariela. Gracias. Sí, hay una pregunta de Alonso, y creo que algunas preguntas de costo, Mariela.
Sí.
¿Podrías compartir algunos comentarios sobre el proceso de suscripción, incluyendo a Brasil?
Sí,
por favor.
Temas de suscripción, esperen que tengo un temita ahí. Temas de suscripción es algo que individualmente tengo que conversar con cada institución. Soy la persona comercial, por ende estaré respondiendo todas esas preguntas en forma individual con ustedes. Cualquier detalle que necesiten, eso lo cubren conmigo. Eso con la parte comercial, Luis.
Excelente, excelente. And now back to Sandra. Sandra, we do have one question in regards to the content. In summary, how complete would Geofacets content be for a local study? Because what the attendee mentions is that there are lots of local important content that should also be considered. Is that all included in Geofacets?
Yeah, good question. Let me actually show. So yeah, indeed. So Geofacets at the moment contains, as I said in the introduction, it contains journals, so publications from those societies and publishers that I showed in the introduction to Geofacets. Indeed, yeah, we know, right? There is also local, more local, like let's say maps from geological surveys or other surveys, and so those at the moment are not in Geofacets. It's really coming from those publishers, but yeah, we are continuously expanding. So to give you an idea, at the moment we're actually expanding with a big project with content from the Society of Petroleum Engineers. We also included started to include more like local, such as the Canadian Society of Petroleum Geologists, Indonesian Petroleum Association, so like really more regional content. And so yeah, Geofacets is expanding in that sense. So yeah, we're not finished yet with adding more content. And so maybe good to show, if I can make this work, maybe it's good if I also show in more detail what content is actually included, because in more detail, there, of course, I only showed the publishers, but you can also view really all of the journals for each of the publishers that are covered in Geofacets. And for that, I'm going to open up the Geofacets journal list. And so, of course, I cannot answer that question, right, for every region or every area of interest. And so in the end, this learn more about Geofacets content. This journal list is probably, you know, the most helpful to then really see, you know, how are like the journals that are really relevant to you included. So this is an overview in more detail, not just the publishers, but showing all the journals and then also the years that are covered for those journals. So this is Elsevier, so you can see, right, applied geochemistry, lots of different journals, Earth and Planetary Science Letters, Marine and Petroleum Geology, but also a Journal of African Earth Sciences, of Southeast Asian Earth Sciences, South American Earth Sciences. And then let's scroll through this list. So AAPG, AGU, the Bureau of Economic Geology. I mentioned Canadian Society of Petroleum Geologists, the Geological Society of America, and then with all the journals listed, like, you know, things like the field guides are what I also found are really useful for field trips, Geological Society of London, and more. So yeah, like that, you can see that there is a lot of information included in Geofacets. And I think this gives you the most detailed overview of what is available.
Sandra, I would like to add some other comments to Alonso's question. We are working with many clients in demands of integrating data. I mean, we know that you as companies, in the case of corporations, that you manage a huge amount of proprietary data, and sometimes you have information produced by yourself, but from universities and so that's why one of our webinars and the question in the poll is related to data management. We have a particular area in our company that is professional services that we support this kind of demands, working together with the companies that need to integrate this kind of information in Geofacets, for example, and then you can focus much more in analyzing data than looking for the information that is all internally or in other platforms. Just adding information at background. The other question, Luis, I saw is related to usage rights. How about usage rights, Sandra, that is already in Geofacets?
Yeah, so actually, let me also again, well, I can explain, yeah. So the content in Geofacets, you can download it, you can use it in your projects. So like within your department, you can use it, you can integrate, for example, in your GIS project, and then, you know, it can also stay there. Of course, you know, if you republish, or let's say, you know, you're presenting at a conference, or you're writing like a scientific article, then the regular copyright permissions apply as, you know, if you would have taken the map or something, for example, from Science Direct or from any of the other publishers. And what I should also mention there is that, you know, these permissions and how to clear them, right, really depend on the publisher. So for Elsevier, you can easily clear them, you know, through the Copyright Clearance Center. For another publisher, you know, the process might be different. And so each of the publishers have their own flow. And so maybe, you know, in the end, it's probably good to quickly show you. You can actually view the details of this through this permissions link. So for each publisher, this shows you how, you know, to handle in case you would like to include it in a publication or something else. So yeah, I hope that answers, yeah, that question's about the use.
Definitely, thank you. Luis, I don't know if you have other question. I saw one related to the frequency of data updates in Geofacets.
I already answered that one. That was an easy one. I'm sorry, but anyway, I was going to add to the content that we have integrated into Geofacets, because we do have some Mexican governmental content in Geofacets. And I understand that we were able to add their content because they were willing they shared their content, and there were no usage rights difficulties. Am I right, Sandra?
Yeah, so we did add indeed that content. So a few years ago, when Mexico announced a lease sale round, and there was lots of requests, could we include that information in the structured way in Geofacets? And so then we worked with you know, with Mexico, with the CNH to get this integrated into Geofacets. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, and maybe also good to add, you know, on the topic of content. So I did mention that Geofacets at the moment has 2.2 million maps, figures, and tables. But of course, yeah, the content is being updated regularly. So as new articles are published for the journals that Geofacets covers, we, you know, extract the maps, the figures, the tables for those articles and add them to Geofacets. And so that means on average, like more than 10,000 maps, figures, and tables are added to the product every month. So yeah, it's also not that, you know, once we integrate a publisher that it stops there. We like keep it up to date as new publications come out.
Perfect. One other comment was made on integration to Petrel and Arcgis. I love talking about that, but I'll leave it up to today. Please.
Should I, sorry,
yes.
Petrel and Arcgis, yeah.
Yes, integration to those
yeah, okay.
two platforms.
Yeah, so indeed. So yeah, as I said, you know, today I showed an example in Google Earth because, yeah, I think, you know, for the field trips, it's really nice to work between Geofacets and Google Earth. It's like quick, easy. Of course, you know, if either for field trips or for other projects, if you want to integrate into ArcGIS, this is also possible. So there is a GeoTIFF available for download, or for anyone who is actually more interested to work within ArcGIS directly. Geofacets also has a plugin, a Geofacets for ArcGIS plugin, that basically allows you to do everything that I just showed you directly from within the ArcGIS plugin. So this plugin allows you to search for Geofacets content in ArcGIS and to immediately import maps into ArcGIS. So that is one. And so yeah, that is really for those users for which for anyone for who ArcGIS is sort of your main tool that you're using. Then Petrel. There is also a connector for Petrel, again, that allows the same as what I showed you. It allows searching for Geofacets content from within the Petrel platform using this connector or plugin. And then also the ability to, you know, upload maps and then view them in Petrel when that is your tool of preference. And so this is going to be more, I think, in oil and gas applications when you need to view scientific information together with seismic data or well data, and like more in the 3D space.
One last question. Perfect. One last question on water resources. Can you also find use Geofacets to find them?
Yeah, so, you know, the coverage is broad. I mean, again, you know, like if you think back to that journal list that I showed you, you know, there is like lots of journals that contain a lot of information on other topics, like so water, other topics. And so, yeah, definitely. And I actually presented a webinar a while back on an example on water resources. In this case, I focused on Egypt. But yeah, you can also search for that type of information. And so this is tying back to those other examples that I showed of how Geofacets can help for, like, you know, other research questions. There is definitely information there. Yeah.
Perfect. Thanks.
I think we are on time. Sandra, can you change the slide to the other where we have the
Yes.
contact? Exactly.
Yes.
If there's, I will change to Spanish again, Sandra. Si quedaron solo para la audiencia, en el caso que hayan quedado algunas preguntas pendientes de responder, estamos justo ya cumplido el tiempo y queremos respetarlo por todos ustedes también. Si quedaron preguntas pendientes, estaremos respondiéndolas directamente en sus correos. De todas maneras, ahí en pantalla tienen los datos de contacto, tanto míos como Luis, y los datos de nuestras redes sociales. ¿Por qué refuerzo este tema? Porque todo lo que son seminarios, más allá de nuestra especialización, que es ingeniería y geociencias, también en Instagram es donde justamente más publicamos todas las actividades que regionalmente estamos haciendo, e incluso cuando son actividades también globales que consideramos que pueden darles valor. ¿tá? Entonces los invitamos siempre a incluirse en nuestras redes sociales, y desde ya nosotros siempre estaremos en contacto con ustedes. Una vez más, quiero agradecerles a todos por la presencia, estaremos en contacto, and thank you so much, Sandra, for taking the time to prepare in this webinar with special content that is from interest of our region. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.